Hello everyone, welcome back to Spar&Brawl. Hope you're having a decent day. So we're back with another episode of the Progressive World, and it's a pretty packed episode, I must say. So we're gonna start off with the whole Belarus plane incident. Glenn Greenwald had an article which I slightly disagree on one point, but I feel like Sam disagrees with what I have to say. Then Kyle Kulinski recorded a podcast. What was it? Talking Smack or Secular Talk? Secular Smack Talking? Anyway, he came out swinging. He was ready to fucking throw hands in this video. So that was really fun. Then also why Chris Hedges wouldn't run as the Green Party candidate. And I think we're going to wrap up with some viewer comments about Finkelstein video we had done. So we're going to get to all of that. But okay, let's start with the Belarus plane incident. So I'm sure most of you are aware this plane was going from, if I'm not mistaken, from Greece to Lithuania, and on it there was like a famous Belarusian activist, I guess anti-government activist, and they brought the plane down, and Belarus brought the plane down while it was above its air zone, saying
Yeah,
that airspace, saying that there is bomb threat and all that. So let's just first go over the latest as it concerns like the news. So the latest that's kind of happening is that Russia is now telling French flights and other European flights that no, you must fly over the Belarus airspace if you want to land in Russia. Is that what the Russians are saying?
they banned two airlines from landing in Moscow when they said they're not gonna travel to I think Air France and Air Austria, if I'm not
Mm-hmm.
mistaken. And they're saying basically you have to go over Belarus, and I mean that's an interesting thing, the relationship between Belarus and Russia, because Belarus is pretty much, you could argue Belarus is the rem, like the remaining, it's the last remainder of the Soviet Union, basically. It's the last uh, republic of the Soviet Union. So and uh, they have this love hate relationship, because Russian newspapers are far more open to criticize. It's a far more open society, Russia, than Belarus, and they criticize Lukashenko, the dictator in Belarus, a lot. So they have a love and hate, because he expects Putin to, you know, silent everybody who criticizes him. And he actually, there was this attempt by Belarus, and I highly recommend everybody, for details, watch. There's this great channel, Caspian Report, where the guy covers geopolitics. Shirwan, his name is Shirwan something, I forget, but he covers the specific geopolitical issues, and it's very interesting channels, high quality videos. Hopefully, we are hoping to do content like that in the future. And Caspian Report does a great video about how Belarus tries to annex Russia. I think in early noughts or late 1990s.
What?
Basically, yeah, Lukashenko is crazy. Like, yeah, let's do a union and I'll be the head. Huh? Okay? Yeah. All right. Like,
But wait,
and
and the same guy who's the president of Belarus now was the president back then?
yeah, he's been a dictator he's been there since
Wow.
like the fall of Soviet. Yeah.
Damn.
I think he was, even before this fall of Soviet Union, he was the governor of there or something. So yeah, he's been there for long. He's a good friend of, by the way, Chavez, Ahmadinejad. He
Oh,
was part
really?
of their, yeah. Him and Ahmadinejad were at the funeral of Chavez. I think they held the casket or something. They were one of the major guys there
Jesus
with the gang.
Christ.
They were the anti-US gang at the time. It was the height of Ahmadinejad's global popularity.
Wow.
But yeah, so yeah, it's
One
a very interesting,
anti-US gang you might not want to really associate yourself with.
like,
We like the end
yeah,
result, but not the means. I don't think we
yeah,
agree. Yeah.
guys, I feel like you're not really doing this in the right
Yeah.
way. But so
Kind of
so
on the same page, but not really.
yeah, just agree on very little.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, so yeah, it's a very interesting that Russia really stepped up for. But
Yeah.
another, yeah, I mean, you should go ahead and,
Should I give my take and then maybe you
yeah,
can
yeah,
react to that? Yeah,
and
if
then,
there's. if there's no more specific news. So pretty much, okay, I will start with this. So, I read news stories all day and I'm rarely shocked. So this one, I was shocked, okay? I was like, oh shit, really? They did this? And Glenn Greenwald wrote an article saying that, this was bad, dangerous, blah, 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 but not unprecedented. Everybody should remember that in 2013, I think it was, that Obama administration brought down Bolivia's president's airplane just to make sure that Edward Snowden is not on it. So totally agree.
Sorry, Julian Assange.
No, Edward Snowden.
No,
I'm 100% sure about this. Yeah.
I thought, but then you had another incident, I think, with maybe that was, sorry, the Ecuadorian. So you had, wasn't there another incident with the Ecuadorian thingy with the Julian Assange? They feared they gonna. Oh, sorry, no, that was.
That was in the embassy.
So yeah, they feared he's gonna escape from the embassy to the airport in a car. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. I see. Yeah, no, this one was when pretty much Snowden went from Hong Kong to Russia and he was stranded in the Moscow transit. And then I believe the French and according to Glenn Greenwald's article, he's written all there, the French and the Spanish prevented more or less from kind of flying over their airspace, and then had to go back to Austria, and that's where he landed for 12 hours and they checked this whole plane. I mean, apparently, yeah, he was stranded in Austria for 12 hours and they didn't let him to fly back to Bolivia. So all of that, I agree with Glenn Greenwald. I mean, one of my takes is that I was a bit shocked. I mean, I did find it like extra surprising a bit, but that could perhaps just be like sometimes you imagine yourself, you can be like, hey, I could have easily been on that plane and that could have been like really like, just sometimes in your head you put yourself in a situation, whether if it's realistic or not. But I feel like that's kind of what happened to me. But then Glenn says that these two incidents are really the same. It's kind of like his third paragraph, his third to last paragraph. But then he says there are two things that are different, if anything. One is that at least the Belarus president and his administration knew for sure that there was this guy on the plane, whereas the Americans were just guessing that, hey, maybe Snowden is on that plane. And secondly, they're like, that wasn't, in the Belarus case, it was just a normal like passenger airline, whereas that was a president plane, so there's all kinds of sovereignty issue and all that. But I mean, I think there is kind of a third difference is, which, like you pointed out, this was a passenger plane, so there were hundreds of, maybe not hundreds, but I'm guessing just about 100 other people on the plane whose lives could have also potentially been put in danger. I know a plane can go up and down a bunch of times, but just calling a fake bomb threat, or let's say there were some health issues with some of the passengers on the plane. I mean, I did find it in a way even more irresponsible or dangerous just because of that, because some things could have gone wrong. I'm just making things up, and I'm not saying that there's a high percentage of this, but let's say there was actually a real criminal or something on that plane, let's say, and he thought that this was all about him or her, for instance, and there was some kind of altercation there. So, I mean, I do think there's a difference here, but yeah, that's kind of my take. So I'm not saying like, oh wow, it could have like endangered all these, but there were a lot of other people on this plane.
I know, but you're really stretching it. I mean, with the other criminal, that's like Hollywood.
No, I know I'm saying, okay, but that's just one scenario. There could be like, sick people on the plane, like someone with a heart condition or stuff like that. And, different things. And apparently they did also have a fighter jet to go up. It's unclear if a fighter jet went to accompany it or not the plane. And also calling a fake bomb threat, right? That's also quite irresponsible. And dangerous. I'm not saying other governments don't do anything dangerous, but all of these combined together in this situation.
Yes, you're right. I mean, it's risky, and if you're a passenger on that flight, you feel awful, and your life is put in danger for no reason. I mean, even if you're a dissident, you shouldn't be treated that way.
Exactly.
But I think Glenn Greenwald is focusing on the way it's covered as this unprecedented act, which is
100% agree. That's why I said small disagreement.
Which is leading to European countries talking about sanctions and the German foreign minister Heiko Maas coming out saying this is unacceptable, blah blah blah. Like the hypocrisy in the coverage, the extent of coverage, and I don't think anybody's really like the safety angle. The safety angle, I told you this, I think, in our production talk as well. The safety angle is the same for the Bolivian plane. I mean, sure, there are less people there,
Yeah.
but you could argue there are officials, there are diplomats, there's like legal issues, blah blah blah. So I'm not, I'm just saying, yeah, sure, it's a safety wise and even dissident wise, it's not a nice thing for a dissident, even if that dissident is a, let's say, is a like a sort of a spy or funded by somebody in America. So it's not nice. It's just the hypocrisies, and they push and I would say that uh, like if you also read history, uh, America and the people who make international laws or the people who make laws in any country, usually this is what happens before a civil war. The people who make laws start breaking the laws themselves. So they can't even abide by the standards they have written themselves or they have put themselves. And then it is completely natural that everybody else, especially the people who are in opposition to the people who are writing the laws of these words, they're not going to follow those laws, and the whole world is gonna trend towards chaos. So I think you can say that when America starts doing something like that, or when they held Glenn Greenwald's boyfriend David something in London, I think they held him and for questioning and stuff. When you start breaking international like that, then other people say, okay, see, maybe we can do this. So yeah, I understand it's not a usual tactic of dictators, and it happens rarely, but it's not unprecedented. And I don't think it's. I mean, they abuse. It's a very negative development in Belarusian path towards development. But European and American media sadly abuses that and politicizes that in a way that is not constructive.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I 100% agree with that, and 100% agree with what Glenn Greenwald said, and I don't think it like contradicts kind of the point that I was making. Yeah, I do agree that the Europeans and Americans are hypocrites if they come out and the way that they act. Oh, this has never happened. Indeed, it happened like just 7 years ago, and I'm sure there have been previous incidents too. I tried to look. It's unprecedented. Is it really unprecedented that they brought down like presidents' planes or other people's planes? I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened even before that. But yeah, I mean, the first part, I admit, it like shocked me a bit, perhaps because I live in Europe and I take these little flights all the time. So that could have been easily a personal one. I remember a friend of mine had said something similarly about a terrorist attack once. And like the example that he gave said, I could have been there, blah, blah, blah. And I started laughing. So even when I was thinking of that example, I was like, hey, I made fun of my friend back then, but I thought I had a little bit more of a leg to stand on. But yeah, and I only disagreed with Glenn Greenwald's last part where he says these two are identical except these things. I mean, no, you can say they're also everything he said is correct, but they're also the fact that they had all these people on the plane is also just another dynamic that is just add to the story and consider. But it doesn't change at all his main argument and main point. Completely agree that it's not unprecedented and that the Europeans and Americans are hypocrites and they had done the exact same thing.
Sure. No, but I mean, I'm just saying that uh, I think he acknowledges the difference in
No,
that
no, no.
in
He
that.
literally has a paragraph, the third paragraph last. He
No,
said
it's a
there are two.
passion. No, I know you're focusing on the fact that the number of people changes, but he also acknowledges the fact that it's a passenger airline, and the other one was
Yeah.
a sort of a official
But he
government
acknowledged it to make a different point, meaning that the other
point.
one was even more dangerous, or even more, not more dangerous, he says, even has
Yeah,
more
he
legal
was.
issues because
Yeah,
sovereignty rights and all that associated with the president and his plane.
I do think that one was more. I found that one more shocking than this one, to
Oh,
be
really?
honest.
No, I mean,
Yeah. Because passenger, like it's a private company. You just, yeah, we have
yeah.
to, yeah, it's dangerous. Come down for a second. Just, please, just
And
come, come.
I love their excuse. Hamas is like, yeah, we're busy here. What do you want us to do with your goddamn plane? We didn't even know Belarus was a country. Where's Belarus? Okay. Is
Hey,
that a
man, Belarus
neighborhood in New York?
actually,
Like, what are we
yeah,
talking about?
actually, Belarus is a big supporter of Palestinian cause.
Okay.
So don't be surprised.
Oh,
The
all right. So
opposition
I hold my hand up.
UN
I'm the ignorant here. I'm sorry. So I
no,
guess,
no, but yeah, a strange bedfellows. But,
yeah.
but yeah, Hamas is attacking them.
Hold on one second. Hold on. IDF. 1 second. We got some
Guys,
important
we
things.
have a great plan.
Okay.
We're gonna attack Slovakia.
Yeah.
You know those
Okay.
guys.
Turn all the rockets west immediately.
Forget Israel.
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
God. But
Bullshit
yeah,
excuse.
so,
But yeah, I don't really have anything else to add on this story.
no, fair enough. No,
Uh,
I think that's a
should
good
we
coverage of that.
move to Kyle Kulinski? Okay, so I saw this first.
Sure, yeah.
The Vanguard covered these two parts that I'm going to. One is about Kyle talks about Destiny, and the other one is about the third party candidate. So shout out to them. I saw clips from Kyle's episode there, and I also agreed largely with their takes. Maybe we'll get into them when it's relevant. But yeah, Kyle was pissed off in this in this podcast episode. Maybe it has to do a little bit with he's having some issues with his studio or some of the topics. But I mean, he was ready to throw hands. If it came to that, he was ready to go. So, but getting a bit more,
Sometimes literally.
huh? Yeah,
Sometimes literally.
I swear. So the first thing is that he just summed up Destiny beautifully. He's because I didn't know that. Okay, at first they had done one or two videos together, but then Destiny just started, talking shit about Kyle. And I tried to go back and watch these videos that Destiny made about Kyle. I didn't even understand, so I'm not even gonna bother what the hell he was saying, what he was doing. He was playing this video game the whole time, which was extremely distracting to me, and I couldn't understand what his point was. But Kyle summed up Destiny so well. He just said he's a contrarian, and that's the word I should have used when we did those videos on Destiny. He's just like a straight up contrarian who just wants to oppose every single thing that people more to the left of him say. So Kyle really summed it up beautifully in one word. I was like, yes, you explained them. And then he even went on to say that, this guy seems
I
to be
think
mentally unstable now, which could also be the
uh,
case. Sorry, go ahead.
to be fair, I don't. Yeah, I don't. I mean, look, I think to be fair, Kantarian had a bit of a, back in the days at least, somebody who had a bit of an art of a sort of a devil's advocate type figure, somebody who can come up with good arguments against you or something. So I would say bottom feeder is a much better sort of description. But
Fair enough. But I
that's
think
just my.
contrarian is just easier to understand. But yeah, nowadays, I guess, I mean, I see someone who's a contrarian, yeah, who just wants to oppose you for just the sake of opposing you, not because to advance the discussion or anything in that way.
No, but there is in a debating society or something, there is a point to that to hone your skills or whatever.
Yeah.
So you can be a contrarian at like you can be an interesting contrarian.
But I
Instead,
mean,
you can
yeah,
like it's difficult,
yeah.
but when you're oh, anyway,
I
my
mean,
views
that's
on
the whole
I'm
point.
just, who gives a shit though anyway, like he's just. I mean, I do, yeah. Anyway, I don't understand why he spends his time talking about these people. Anyway, like who gives a shit? I mean,
No,
he called them Destiny. What the fuck?
yeah.
Anyway, sorry,
I
but
mean, he
yeah.
seemed like he was a more normal person back then, and I mean, he does have a decent amount of following
I
and
mean,
all
he's
that. But
acting. I'm sure he's a
yeah,
normal person. He's doing all of this for probably for the clicks and. I mean, again, we're doing this at some point for the money, hopefully.
yeah,
But so I'm not begrudging that. But he's just like he's chosen a very shitty act. But yeah, that's. I don't think he
yeah.
really like then or now or ever he really thought about these stuff or scared. I don't know. It
I
just
mean, I'm
doesn't
sure
come at
he, but I mean, he
me.
covers politics and shit all the time, so I'm sure he's thinking of something, but from what angle and why he's thinking about them,
Mm.
I guess that's a different story. Okay, so the second one is about the third party thing. So, and there's Nick
Yeah,
Brana. I know him. I've just seen he did this video with Chris Hedges recently. I don't really know about him too much, but apparently he started this new party called
People's
People's
Party.
Party, and I really don't know much about that either. So if some people want
He
to
he
add,
he was. Let me give you a bit of a background. I think when Bernie in 2016 didn't endorse Hillary, he started coming on Jimmy Dore a lot, and he set up this basically third party, and he was in Bernie's campaign before that. He was head of something in Bernie's campaign, and then after 2016, so not even after like very early on, he separated his thing from Bernie, and they were part of the people who were calling for Bernie to run as a third party candidate or form a third party or something like that.
okay, got you. So besides the little bit of the beefing, so put the beefing aside, apparently he had taken a few jabs at Kyle, and Kyle was kind of warning him, like, listen, if you don't come after me, because if you come after me, it's not going to turn out well for you. Yeah, literally. Go back and watch. I'm not making it up for once. Okay. But then Kyle's main point was that, listen, I made this mistake before with the Justice Democrats, and third party candidates are a much worse idea than trying to run somebody in the Democratic ticket, whether it's at the state level or at the federal level. And that was his main thing. And he's like, listen, I admit I made a mistake with the Justice Democrats. And he even says, now I'm
Wait,
done with politics.
wait. He says no. He says that I made no. He doesn't say he made a mistake. He says I disagree with Justice Democrats now, but I still think that strategy of taking over Democratic Party is the correct way, not the
Okay,
third party. He doesn't
true.
say, yeah,
True. So he
like
completely disagrees with the whole third party thing, but also with the Justice Democrats.
he
I mean, he said,
disagrees with them,
but he
but
says he
he says
made a
that
mistake and stuff. That it was a mistake and he wouldn't do it. I think he meant it was a
no.
mistake, maybe getting involved in politics in that way. Then
I, I think he says he made a mistake in thinking that if they agree on issues, they definitely gonna agree on a strategy and tactics. I think he says something along. It's a very long podcast, but but you're right. He's very dismissive of third
third
party
party, and then
chances.
yeah, exactly. And then the Vanguard also they agreed with him, which I was surprised. And they were like, yeah, even though we've pushed third party candidates here and there, they both kind of got specific a little bit too, in addition to not agreeing with the third party strategy, but also like saying that this people's party is like particularly badly managed. Although people in the comment section of the Vanguard didn't seem to agree too much with Kyle or the Vanguard, and they were saying that hey, they're brand new, so it's unfair to say that they don't have anybody in state in like Congress or anything yet because they're brand new. So give them a little bit
So
of time. I don't really disagree that the third party candidate thing is not very feasible. But at the same time, what's the alternative? Changing the Democratic Party from the inside. So sure, at the state level, getting some people in like state level Congress or something, I can't see that, or even in Congress. But we saw that when it comes to like the presidential part, I feel like the Democrats think that, listen, we let Bernie run on our ticket and he's actually useful to us. We can point to this and that out. But if you think that Bernie's ideas are going to take over the whole party and we're going to back him as the president, you're gravely mistaken. In fact, we're closer to I mean, they don't say this, but in fact, we're closer to the Republicans. So if it comes down to Bernie or the Republicans, no thank you. We'll go with the Republicans. So I mean, at the same time, I mean, they just both seem so hopeless in a way.
that
I don't know.
I, I think that's a good segue to the Chris Hedges
Yeah.
green thing you wanted
Should
to
I
talk
bring
about
that
as well.
up too?
I think so because then we're gonna talk about the structure. So, I mean, tell everybody. I think what he says basically. They ask him about whether he would run as a as a candidate for the Green Party, right?
Exactly. It's slightly old video. It's from 2013, but I doubt he would say anything different now. And he said that, yeah, they've approached me, but A, I don't want to be a politician and all that. But then he also gets, he kind of says, just besides the strategy and all this, he says that they're very poorly run and it's all about kind of me, and, having a high
And
level candidate wouldn't change
I
anything. We had Ralph Nader
I
and
think,
look,
by the way, we had I think we had a I think it's a video. It's from 2017 or something because he says he voted for Jill Stein. So
because Jill Stein
I
ran
would
so many
assume.
times.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
I know
okay.
this video is 2013. I think Jill and the Green Party
Uh,
for me. So I'll actually give my
uh,
take on the Green Party. I don't know why I've never been attracted to like the Green parties anyway. I feel like they have too much baggage. I mean, their name is good. You kind of know immediately what they're associated with, but they're kind of, I mean, at least in US and Canadian politics, they're just like
look,
insanely
Green.
irrelevant. It's not even funny. At least at the
To be
federal
honest,
level.
I don't know any details about the structure of the People Party or Green Party, but I've heard a lot of bad things about Green Party's structure. I heard that Jesse Ventura
Mm.
was considering running as a, sort of Green Party, but there is so many egos in the party or whatever. I've heard very bad things, but generally speaking, first past the post systems, which allows one representative per area instead of proportional representation of people across the country, they tend to favor one or two political parties, and I don't think they have a good chance. I don't know though. I think if somebody like Bernie Sanders, like after 2016, would have spent time like with a good leadership, I do
Mm.
think because sort of going back to our previous videos, Thomas Frank comes to my mind. He wrote
Yeah.
this book, People, about the history of the People's Party, and maybe you wouldn't have a candidate for presidency that would win, but maybe you would have something that happens like what happened with the People's Party, that in one election they cause so much headache for the Democratic Party. They win one state, which causes an uproar, then Democrats are forced into merging with them or accepting some of their ideas. So I think that it's a good way to put pressure. But I must say, I haven't read enough about the structure of any third party in U.S. that much, except
Yeah.
the Thomas Frank book, to be honest. So I suppose, yeah, it does depend on structure of the parties and leadership and all that. But I would say like UK is a good example where you have many parties, but because it's first past the post system, you basically, I mean, you have a two-party system, but you had about 70% of the time since World War II has been one party, Conservative Party. And even when Labour was in power, it was basically the conservative side of Labour,
Hmm.
Tony Blair. So it does tend to favor like this form of political structure does not favor third parties. So my guts are telling me are probably Kyle is correct, but at the same time, I do think they are probably good sort of tools, sort of being used as a stick to maybe force politicians more to your positions.
Yeah, 100%. I agree much more with your slightly more nuanced position. I was a bit surprised also that Kyle Kulinski didn't exactly mention the whole Thomas Frank thing because he loves Thomas Frank and he interviewed him exactly about that populist party um, thing from the early 20th century that
The book.
Thomas Frank, yeah, exactly documents in his book. So I was a bit surprised that he didn't bring that up. And he kept on using this example like give me a call when like a third brand Coca-Cola thing, like, is at the same level as Pepsi and Coca-Cola. A, that does happen every now and then where like huge brand like this are kind of, are taken over by someone else. It does happen rare, yes. And third, I mean, it's a bit of like a weird example to base your whole politics on with something that has to do with, two corporate brands. I don't know. I mean, I saw his example a bit, but it
I
wasn't the
and I do
strongest thing to back his, such a strong position he had on this that I didn't know now.
And I do think, to be honest, combination of internet and the fact that more than or about 50% of people in America, 50% of eligible voters don't vote, does give you opportunities for new ways of mobilization and movements that may have not been around 40 years ago or 50 years ago. Same is true for the right wingers and
Hmm.
uh,
Yeah,
for
exactly, right.
established.
Right wing examples from the past 2 decades, you can find them in the U.S.
They had
context with Tea Party and stuff.
they had a lot more funding to
Yeah,
do
yeah,
so.
for sure. No, for sure. I'm not saying it could happen. I'm just saying like absolutely no or something like that is a bit pushing it.
Sure. Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah. No, and again, yeah, it's like winning is not always the end
Yeah,
game. Sometimes
no,
you just want.
100%. Exactly. Like, let's say somehow you get the medical thing, healthcare sorted out through this. No, exactly. But the Green, I mean, I just learned about the People's Party, but they still excite me more than the Green Party. I don't know why Green Party is like, I mean, Jill Stein looks terrific. I love to hear from her every now and then, but it's just like, yeah, I don't know they're just, yeah. They have good thing going on with them, which is as soon as you say Green Party, you know what the hell they're about, which is good, but at the same time hasn't
It's
reached
too.
anything.
Sometimes I mean, they call them a single issue parties, and that's a problem because
Hmm.
people feel like they don't have the competence for anything else.
Yeah, it can also exactly it can also be a downfall. But okay, before I forget about Kyle Kulinski here, apparently Kyle Kulinski is gonna go again on the Joe Rogan show mid-June, and so he announced this while he was doing his podcast and going over some comments, and everybody was like, are you gonna stand up to Joe now that he's gone more right? Or are you gonna bring him back to the left? I'm also curious what hat Joe Rogan puts on. Sam and I have had a few debates about this. I say that Joe Rogan's always swinging from left to right, and Sam's point is that this is how normal people behave. But yeah, I'd be excited to see how he behaves in front of Kyle Kalinske. Not even the vaccine comments, but these other comments that he makes more and more now about poor people being lazy, and then giving like hypothetical examples like if the government gives you 100,000 a year, would you go back to work? I mean, it's a
I've
ridiculous.
I haven't seen them, but
Yeah,
uh,
but so
I
I'm
I
curious to see.
say if somebody asks me that though, I would definitely say let's try it.
Yeah,
Let's give me a. I know you have the money, so give me
yeah,
the money. And you'll see if I work or not.
yeah. So more
I don't.
on the. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Anyway, no. So he's gonna go mid June or mid July. Sorry,
Mid June, he said, yeah. So
mid
the
June.
COVID stuff, I'm not so interested to hear because people have bashed him so much, and he kind of came out like semi apologized or whatever. But more about the other, more right leaning stuff that he's been saying. I'm curious to see how this conversation goes with Kyle Kalinske. But yeah, we're looking forward to that. I guess that's gonna happen in a few weeks. But okay, Sam, let's go back to Chris Hedges before we wrap up with the Finkelstein video. So should I? I'm not gonna. No, I'm not gonna play this video. Pretty much, I'll just summarize it right now. Chris Hedges says that a viewer asks him. This is again from 23 really amazing interviews series that the Real News had done. They ask him, "Do you think that the U.S. would ever attack Iran?" And he says, "No, maybe the Israelis would want it, but the U.S." And he says like people in Pentagon wouldn't want to do that, and that's also been I kind of strongly agree with what he was saying there. I just wanted to see if you want to elaborate or if you don't agree with anything. But I think they realize after the Iraq war and all that the Iran war might be something that would put an end
Look.
to the U.S. empire kind of from like a military standpoint. So I liked how you pointed out the Pentagon would not want to do that. I found that a good
Yeah.
thing to
Yeah.
highlight.
Uh, Actually, that's I think Caspian Reports, which I mentioned earlier in this Progressive World episode, does a great video about that. That mentions that I think US runs war games, and I think the last war game they publicly disclosed, like there was this war game in 2005 or something they ran, where the guy he said like minimum 30,000 something dead US soldiers if they attack Iran, and then they had to basically they changed the guy twice to get the right result for their war game. So no American soldiers died. But Iran is I mean, like this is not belittling any country or anything, but Iran is a completely different case from. Iran is closer to Yugoslavia than it is to Iraq and Afghanistan because it's developed, it's multicultural, multi-ethnic, you know, and and now it has the largest missile number of
Arsenal.
missiles arsenal in Asia. So again, like there's a question, US military is far, far, far superior. But Iran is their masters at asymmetric warfare and guerrilla warfare, and the positioning of it's a very massive country with all the military bases spread around. They have complete access to the Persian Gulf. Like it's not like Iraq where there is a tiny river. You know, when Saddam was threatening to close the Persian Gulf, everybody knew that he was just, it's never going to happen. He doesn't have any access to that. But Iranians, they can, according to reports, I mean, it won't be for long. It will be for a day. But the attack on the U.S. prestige and would be too much. And there are just there's just too many soldiers around Iran, too many American soldiers Iran can target. And as Chris Hedges mentions, like Iranians have made it clear that if U.S. does a full-on military attack, they'll turn green zone in Baghdad into dust, basically. So I mean I never thought Iran and US I think are always, it's like Soviet Union and China and US. It's more talk, and maybe it gets hot in a very, like there may be a military attack, sort of a strike against the site or something, but I think that would be the maximum of it, the highest sort of. I think it's gonna, it's with Iran and US is always going to be mostly the sabotage, assassination, that type of thing.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. And I think even if there weren't all these strategic advantages, just like Iraq, it's still impossible unless you want to go colonize the place and have troops forever. Because if not, best case scenario, you get a small victory and then it just all turns into like reverse and backlash. And
Well, you could argue that's what they did with Japan and Germany, so maybe they do that. And
yeah, I mean,
I feel,
definitely different context and all that.
okay.
And even that, did it turn out to what they wanted? I mean, I guess with Germany, it's because they're kind of allies. I mean, yeah, and I
Kind
mean, it's
of like,
different. Yeah,
and Japan, they pretty much kept all the fascists sort of, and it's just sort of.
yeah.
No, I'm just saying they could do that with like they have done it with a powerful nation before. They destroyed them and went and took over. Not colonize, because I think colonize. I don't think
No, they didn't
that
colonize these. I'm just saying now, if you wanted
except
to.
no, except Israelis. Nobody colonize anymore.
Yeah,
As
no,
in
I
they
know
go
for
to
sure.
Syria or
But I'm
something.
saying, like, let's say if they wanted to keep control of Iraq, they would have probably had to have troops there and American presence there
But they
forever.
do have.
But I
Well,
mean,
they do.
forever, and also even more than that, I guess go beyond troops and just start to pretty much want to run the government, everything. I mean, just
I
colonize
mean
it
that.
pretty much.
Well, after a while, I mean, they have about, I don't know how many troops they have in Germany, but you don't. After a while, you don't need to have that many
Yeah,
troops. After a while, it just works for you anyway. So
that's
I'm
true.
just
But I feel like those, I don't know, just like the World War II examples, I'm sure there are so many ways that are different. But then in any case, even if my simplistic way is flawed, as you pointed out, Iran has all these strategic and military advantages that change
and
things.
U.S. is not right now in a financial position,
Oh
or
yeah,
in a that's the more important part probably.
yeah, and even the troops. I mean, imagine having to again get this many number of people to go, and the backlash that happens then when people start talking about American troops dying, which is not part of the narrative now too much for the past like 10 years because they're not doing that.
Exactly.
But okay, yeah, that Chris Hedges video, I mean, they're amazing. If anybody want to go watch the whole series, we'll link it below. It's like a six-part series with Paul J from The Real News. Really amazing. But okay, Sam, there were some Finkelstein comments that you wanted to go over quickly. Do you have them? Do you have them with you?
Yeah, yeah, sure. I'll
Yeah,
have
so
them.
these
So,
were, I'll just add the context. These were below a video that we had made before this whole flare up between Israel and Palestine. And it was just only about how Norman Finkelstein was even denied volunteer job as a teacher in Chicago. But yeah, please go ahead.
so we had a commentator, John Lenihan, sorry, and he said that he's abusive to Holocaust survivors, and then you were like, no, I don't think
Yeah,
he's
he said
abusive.
Norman Finkelstein is abusive, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I must say, I don't think he's abusive. I think abusive is a very strong word. But I mean, his tone, you must agree that his tone and the way he talks to people, he can be very
Sure, yeah.
uh, assertive, let's say. I love it. I personally love it. I think, like Christopher Hitchens, Norman Finkelstein, Chris Hedges to a lesser extent,
Yeah.
all these people are very assertive in their arguments and very. But I love it. But you can't deny that it's somewhat like
But
he like.
abusive, I think it's just the term abusive that threw me off with his
Sure.
comment. Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think abusive is, yeah, that's something you use for when somebody's insulting you, and I don't
Yeah.
think he ever goes that far. But then John Lennon, I think he goes on to make an interesting point about the fact that the Jews in other countries felt somewhat uh, short, short drifted for because all the focus has been on the Israel and all that, so some of the Holocaust survivors, they don't feel like enough attention has been paid to them, blah blah blah. I think that was an interesting point, but I do think I also made a comment there that I think he has a very one-sided view of the history, and I don't know if he watches this, but if he does, I do think he needs like uh, yeah, I mean the state of Israel, the bill. I mean even Benny Morris, the Israeli historian, now right-wing Israeli historian, like new historians. They were a bunch of Israeli historians. I highly recommend looking at their works. State of Israel was built like it was the history of State of Israel is very bloody. Let's say. Let's not get into details. So that was that. And yeah, I agree completely with you. I don't think language, unless you're insulting or threatening someone, I don't think you can. He's been abusive,
And he
but I
also said abusive to his parents. Hold on, I'm
no,
just
not,
reading this.
not
Continue. No.
no. You said that like because his parents are
Oh yeah.
Holocaust
Okay.
survivors.
Yeah. True. Sorry.
Yeah, that was you. But okay. Anyway, but more importantly, though, we had a commentator which I haven't had the time to comment. Anik Shafi. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this is correctly or not. Why is the Holocaust given so much attention? Genghis Khan butchered a lot of people, and the victims aren't given any attention. Why are Jews so special? Uh, and why are they given special preferences? First of all, try not to use Jews as a sort of a thing here whenever like it does come across as very negatively, like people of Jewish faith or anyway. But first, I would say it's very special, the Holocaust, the one committed by the Nazis. First of all, very bad example. Genghis Khan famously was very tolerant of people of different faiths and different races. He was just a conqueror who like he never said, "Oh, Persians, let's kill all these Persians because they're Persians and they're born Persians, or Arabs because they're born Arabs and they're speaking Arabic language, or because they have a specific faith." The Holocaust, which was sort of continuation of pogroms which were happening in Europe all the time, was a systematic, as in like governmental level systematic effort to annihilate a people just because they are born a specific way, not because they chose a specific path, not because they uh, fought for a specific cause, not because they were attacking another group, just because they were born in a specific way. right? Not like, I mean, this is disgusting, but not even because, let's say, eugenics and like we're getting rid of this disabled people or stuff, just because we really hate these guys and they're like differently born, we're going to kill them. And there are other examples of this in throughout history, but we've never had such a systematic and such an efficient way of doing this evil act. We've had mob. Every country has had a history of, like in a city, sadly, majority of people suddenly attack a minority group for one reason or another. There's a crime, they blame a minority group, pogroms, mob violence, whatever you want to call it, or even like government putting pressure on minorities, making their life difficult, slowly pushing them out, blah blah blah. But this was crazy. Like they built fucking gas chambers and they came up with the most efficient way, as in the cheapest, as in like what is the cheapest. So I do think it's special because of that. That doesn't diminish suffering of any other group, and I do think it's very different from the case of Genghis Khan or any other conquerors that, like, when you start killing people for the way they're born, in my view, that puts you in a different category of evil than when you kill people for ideology, at least. Like, as in, like, like, okay, you don't, I have certain financial interest, and if you don't agree with that, I'm going to kill you. That, to me, is still better than, I'm just going to kill you because you're of a different, group of, like, oh, you were born with this family, so yeah, you should die. So to me, that is the most disgusting thing that could be there. And by the way, I think Israel gets a lot of attention. And by the way, Holocaust is used, or you could argue abused or misused for a lot of things, but it's not getting, like, as Finkelstein points out in his interview with Katie Alper, a lot of Holocaust survivors, they didn't get much, out of the funds that were supposed to go to the victims.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I wanted to clarify that.
No, I'm glad that you addressed, that comment. Very nicely. And then, I don't even know, me, my history, so I don't even know who Genghis Khan is, but I'm glad.
Khan. I'm sure you know by the Iranian, Changiz. It's a very common Iranian name, man.
I've heard of the name. Like, the name doesn't sound strange, but I don't know.
But he's a story. By the way, Genghis Khan, one of the most famous victim of his killings was Iran, was the Khorasan region of Iran and Afghanistan region. He's very famous. His story of conquering Iran is very, very famous. So I'm sorry, I'm very surprised.
Yeah, no, you shouldn't be surprised by now. You remember the other day, I didn't know that Mother Teresa was a real person.
Yeah, that was crazy. I was like, is that a superhero?
But Gandhi's not real too. Okay, no, that I know. But let's not open that can of worms, because you love to just go on Gandhi. Hold on, okay. Let's wrap up the episode.
Gandhi, the funny Lord of the Rings.
Right? He was in Lord of the Rings. But okay. No, I'm glad you addressed this comment, Sam. It definitely needed to be addressed. So yeah.
I'm gonna put a dislike for that one.
Sounds good. Sounds good to me. Okay, everyone. Well, thank you very much for watching this episode. If you have anything to add, any comments, criticisms about any of the stories, please do so. As you saw, we both reply. We will type out the replies, but we also address some of them when it's worth addressing them in the video. But yeah, this was another...
to be honest.
It depends sometimes, but yeah. Okay, this was a fun episode of the progressive world. Let's see what else happens. But yeah, thank you, Sam, for today. And thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. And we'll see you in our next video. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.